Good evening, folks. Tonight we're going to be looking at another cheapo AliExpress electronics kit, and it's this electronic roulette wheel, which has got 10 red LEDs, and essentially you press a button and it will randomly stop on one of said LEDs. I thought this would be quite interesting to do because, as you can see, it has some surface mount components on this kit, and this will be my first SMD construction video. I'm not an expert in SMD, but I'll show you how I do it, and it seems to work for me. So hopefully it might help you if you've been sort of reluctant to sort of veer away from the through-hole kits. But looking at the PCB, we can see we've got a CD 4017 decade counter, the good old 555 general purpose timer, and like I say, a few other small surface mount components, and 10 through-hole LEDs. So there's all the parts in there. As you can see, if I use my tiny tweezers, you can see just how small those components are. So it's a little bit tricky, a little bit of a challenge, but you know, if you do a few of these kits, it will start to build your confidence, and then you might be more inclined to try something a bit more complex. So yeah, I had a look at the PCB. It is the usual very good quality PCB, again provided the circuit is correctly designed, but you know, really good solid board to do the project on. So without further ado, I think we'll get cracking. So I will zoom in, hopefully. I know the lighting isn't perfect on there. I'll do my best to get it in focus for you. And now, as you'll notice possibly from a few of my kits that I've built, sometimes the solder, you know, I've had difficulty putting solder on these boards. So I'm just giving it a quick rub over with some isopropyl alcohol, just to get any residues off it that may have you know, got on it in the manufacturing process, or you know, just while it's been lying around in a warehouse. So yeah, just isopropyl alcohol, give it a quick wipe over, and that should remove any contaminants. So this will be a real-time build, so if you don't want to listen to me droning on, please feel free to fast forward to the end and see if I manage to complete it successfully. But what we're going to do first, I think, is put on the packages, just because these are the most difficult parts, or parts I should say. So just using our tweezers, that just take off the film, because obviously these are designed to go into a machine that's going to populate a board, you know, on a bigger, you know, a big production line. And we'll just lift that out, and we'll take our 555 out as well. Get rid of those. Okay, so there's our packages out. Now, on to how do we do this now. Obviously, if you're using a socketed, you know, package like this, oops, you've normally got a notch at one end to indicate the orientation, and that's normally, as you can see just down there, that's married up with the silk screen on the PCB itself. Now on here we do have a notch, however there's no notch on these chips. It's just a little dot, and that indicates pin 1, but essentially if you've got a dot on the chip, that is essentially where the notch is as well, if that makes sense. So how we're going to do this, we'll just get it orientated to suit ourselves, and using a fine tip soldering iron, as fine you can get. Mine isn't overly fine. You can just compare it there. It should be close enough. And all we're going to do is tin up one corner of the board where this package is going to go. That's maybe just a bit too much. There we go, got it off there. And then we'll lift the package in, taking care not to bend the pins, because obviously these are fairly fine pitch, and you don't want to you don't want to bend them out of place. So just line it up roughly, and then reheat that joint that we've just made, and then that should do it. So if we then bring it up and get it into focus if I can, well, we can see it's maybe slightly too far to the left. So just applying a little bit of heat again to that joint, and then just a little slide over with a finger. And just check that now, and you can see, hopefully, that that's perfectly aligned on both sides. Now, because we don't want to be applying lots of heat here, we want it to be fairly quick joins. I find it really handy to use a flux pen, and what flux does, if you're not aware, is basically cleans the joint and allows the solder to flow much more freely, making the reflowing a lot more simpler and quicker, and thus reducing the risk of damaging the component. So one final check of our alignment. I think that's fine, and then what we'll do is we'll tack up the other side, the other opposite corner, if you will. So just tin with iron, and if you just put a little bit of solder on the end of the iron, you should be able to just that's maybe too much. You should be able to just touch it on, and it should flow in quite nicely. So I'm just going to take that a little bit too much off using some solder wick, a solder braid. And that should do it. Now you might need to, as you go along, you might need to retouch the board up with a flux, but you just see how that goes as you go along. So we don't want to be putting loads on here. Let's say I'm not an expert in surface mount, so it might look a bit messy, but we'll give it a go. And there we go. If I'm honest, there is, probably too much. There'll be people screaming on here going, you're putting too much solder on, but it'll do the job. Okay, so that's that side done, and then just repeat the process on the other side. It does help if you've got quite fine solder as well. I think this is 0.7mm. Oops. Okay, right, so that's our package on. Get some isopropyl alcohol, and then we'll just clean that. So that's going to clean up the flux out the solder itself, and obviously the additional flux that we put on with our pen there. And if we have a look, yeah, a couple of the joints a bit too much solder, but there's no branches on there, there's nothing, no shorts I should say, so that should work quite nicely. So we'll move on to 555 now. It's exactly the same process. I'll just put a bit of flux on to start this time, just make it slightly easier. And I can see I've already got a little bit of solder on that pad there just when I was putting on another package, so I'll try and just reflow that solder underneath. So again, just look for a little dot on the package. As you can see, it is sometimes quite tricky just to get that first pin on. So we'll try that again. Alright, so that's it there. Doesn't look too bad, and we'll just again do the same process as we did on the other package. Okay, it's looking good. Grand. Right. So that's probably going to be the hardest part of this build, is getting those two packages on. You'll be pleased to know. Of course, the resistors can be a little bit tricky, but you've only got two sides to solder, and once you've got one on, obviously the other side's quite easy. So there we have it. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Right, so I think we will put those resistors on next. So we've got some 470k, 10k, and yeah, we'll get two of each. I think 1, 2, 3, 470, 10k, 470. Yeah, I think they've given us an extra one. So these are 103, so that's our 10k. Quite tricky to get these off sometimes. And it's just going to be the same process. I'm going to tin one of the pads. Oh, in fact, we'll tin both the pads. Sorry, flux both the pads and tin one of them. Dear me. Okay, and then we'll get a resistor in, and of course these doesn't matter what way these go in. And then what I do is I just rest one side on, heat it up, allow it to reflow, let it go. Oops. Like so, and then turn it round, and then do the other side. Smashing. Okay, so I'll just put that one to one side just in case I'm being totally blind and missing it. And now we'll do our oh, that's not it. Do our 470Ks. Yeah, 474. So we've got one there and one there. The trick is to get as little solder on the board as you can. Grand. So that'll do us. Hopefully you saw that. Not perfect by any means, but good enough I think. Our next thing to put on is the surface mount diode. Now these can be a little bit tricky because they're obviously round little glass transistors. And if we can see this, if we can bring it up to the camera. Ooh, whereabouts is it? So this black line here is a negative, so that obviously matches up to the negative on the board. So we'll just orientate that, ready to go on. And dab a flux. And we'll tin it. And then we'll lift it on. Be careful that you don't apply too much pressure with tweezers because it will just pop out and you'll end up losing it. Okay. Right, so the last surface mount component is this small transistor. So easiest way to do this one is to do the middle pin, if you like. So again, we'll just dab a flux. We'll tin that top pad. Lift it into position. And there we go. Check the positioning and I'm happy with that, so then we'll just go in with the soldering iron and apply a little dab of solder onto each of those legs now. Perfect, grand. Okay, right, so that is all the surface mount components on there now. So I will just, I think probably what I'll do now is I will pause the video and solder in all the LEDs, and then we'll come back and have a look and see if it works. So if you give me 5 minutes, I shall be back with you then. See you in a minute. Welcome back, guys. Right, that's all the LEDs, the caps in, and I've put in a couple of fly leads for the power. I just put those in from the back, just so it looks a bit tidier rather than wires, you know, dangling through the LEDs. So the last thing to do is just put in the little push button switch, little tactile switch, and I think I've said in some videos before, these have got formed leads, so they tend to just go in and locate and hold themselves in place, so you don't need to worry about holding them while you're soldering them. So we'll just go and tack those up now. Try and get this to focus. There we go. And then we'll be ready to test it. So yeah, we'll see how well it performs and how good my surface mount soldering skills are or are not. So there we go, all done, and this is rated between 3.5 and 5 volts, so we'll start off at 3.5 volts and see how it performs. Right, so on power on we do have an LED illuminated, and we'll just press the button. 6, 6, 9. So it does appear to be random. I wonder if we hold it in, if it does anything. Oh yes, if we hold it in, it will just continue sort of cycling through. and then when we release it, it slows down. Yeah, so it does appear to be completely random, apart from those 3 or 4 sixes at the very start. Brilliant. Okay, those guys. So that's it there. That's the 10 LED roulette surface mount electronics kit, available from AliExpress. 80 pence delivered to the United Kingdom. This took about 2.5 weeks to get here, so fairly quick and obviously fairly cheap. Nice little kit. Ideal for an introduction to surface mount soldering. Obviously you might be able to do it slightly better than me, because there's quite a lot of solder on those joints just down there. But yeah, not bad little kit. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that, hope you learned something. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you again soon for another video. Take care, all the best.